But as you pollute more and more, obviously it's bad for the environment. So really what we need to do is the cost of removing each additional unit of pollution increases. What we should do is do a market-oriented strategy that deals with pollution is to increase the cost of pollution to discourage it. Meaning, if I have a company, the government will charge me so much for every time I pollute. And if I continue to pollute more, they're going to increase the cost of pollution so that I will fix my company and not pollute as much. Sounds like a simple concept, but a lot of times with legislation and companies, it just doesn't work out that way. Some things you'll need to know also for pollution is command and control. Laws that set the limits on pollution right here. Okay. Whoops. What in the wide world of sports? We have laws that say you're allowed to pollute, but you can only pollute this much. And if you go over it, then you're going to be taxed. A good way to reduce emissions is to use these credits, like carbon credits. Basically, the government would say you're allowed to pollute or produce 50 million parts, 50 parts per million of carbon. And if I am under that, I then get basically money back from the government. The optimal pollution concept, this is the risk of disrupting the environment. For example, if I were to put in a dam, what would the cost of putting in a dam be? Yes, it would generate electricity, great, but what is the environmental impact to it? You've got stuff above the dam and you've got stuff going on below the dam. So what cost benefit would it be for putting in the dam, and how would it relate to the environment? We have been successful in reducing airborne lead by 98% once we phased out leaded gasoline, and now we have unleaded gasoline. We can include harmful environmental costs in the prices of goods and services. Why isn't full cost pricing more widely used? Well, if we were to do this, a lot of your businesses would have to raise the prices, and then consumers wouldn't buy their products and they may go out of business. It is difficult to estimate the environmental health and the environmental and health costs of it. And businesses have a strong influence on the government. This is a big one right here. They want preferential treatment, regulations, tax breaks, and subsidies. Reward environmentally sustainable businesses. We need to phase out environmentally harmful subsidies and taxes breaks, and instead put in environmentally beneficial subsidies and tax breaks for pollution prevention. Okay, if I can avoid polluting, I should get a tax break. And unfortunately, though, we have those political difficulties. For example, the spotted owl versus jobs. So here is an old growth forest right here. Okay, and you can see that all of this area has been cut down from trees. Well, these little owls right here live in this particular area. So if you look, if the number of old growth forests is high, the public is willing to harvest it. It's only until they start getting low in numbers that there is more of a political awareness and pressure to then keep the old growth forests. So really what we need to do is find that middle road right here where the abundance is going down, the value of it goes up. Can we find that middle road where we only harvest once in a while so that the public gets satisfied and the jobs can still stay there? Some trade-offs, environmental taxes and advantages. Here's one big one I want you to understand. Is encourage businesses to develop environmentally beneficial technologies and goods to save money. On the other side of the coin, though, it's hard to determine the optimal level for taxes and fees. We would put a tax or a fee on it. Does it make an impact? What level do we set it at? And some other ones for tradable environmental permits. They're easy to administer. They encourage the pollution prevention and waste reduction. However, it may not reduce pollution at the dirtiest plants. Caps may be too high and not regularly reduced to promote progress. So, much of the pollution stems from a policy that subsidized the price of energy, water, and agricultural chemicals. If you want more of something, subsidize it. Does anybody know what subsidizing means? Well, it's a tax break. It's a break from the government. Farmers get subsidies all the time. And it helps us out as consumers. Let's say a farmer goes and buys corn seed and he gets a tax break on it, a subsidy from the government. So instead of it being 10 cents a seed, it's now 3 cents a seed. Well, now the farmer can buy more of it, which means they can plant more crops, which means they can supply more corn to our world for whatever it is needed for. And the price of the corn will be cheaper. It'll be better for us to buy. It won't be expensive, and we'll buy more corn. So if you want something of more, subsidizing it is probably one of the best ways to go. Here's something I wanted to show you. What should our priorities be? Look at how much money that is spent in the U.S. military. Look at how much money is spent here in the world military. Yet to reforest the earth is only $6 billion. To restore fisheries, $13 billion. The total earth and restoration and social budget would be $2.45 billion or $245 billion. Look at our U.S. military, $734 billion per year. What should our priorities be? And this is one of the fundamental concepts of environmental science that I hope you learn as the year goes on. Economics, okay, if we look here, the rewards subsidize, penalize the environmentally harmful economic growth. If you're polluting at an excessive rate, you should be penalized. Do not deplete or degrade natural capital resources. Live off the income of natural capital. For resource and pollution, improve energy efficiency and rely more on renewable solar and geothermal energy. And for ecology and population, preserve biodiversity and stabilize human population. All of these things we're going to get into. If we're able to do this, this is now living environmentally sustainable, having an environmentally sustainable economy. Solutions to environmental sustainability and development. We're going to get into a bunch of these as we go along throughout the year. We're going to talk about renewable energy. We're going to talk about recycling. We're going to talk about sustainable fisheries. And we're also going to talk about land management. There's tons of careers out there, guys, in the environmental field, including forestry. You have aquaculture, environmental chemistry, economics, law, health, marine science, fuel cell technology. We're going to do a variety of things throughout the year that hopefully you'll be able to see some of these careers, and maybe it would be interesting to you to study once we finish high school. I already finished. You always want to act locally, think globally. You got to start with your house. Do you recycle at your house? Do you recycle at your house? I mean, honestly, ask yourself that question. And if you do, how much do you do? Can you recycle everything in your house? If you can start at your house and your household, you can progress in your community, and then this can become a national and global phenomenon to try and take care of the environment. I think we're starting to recognize that, but I still think that some of you, probably, including myself, we could do much, much better. 3 big ideas for Chapter 23. An important outcome of the political process is environmental policy. There are bodies of laws and regulations that are designed, implemented, and enforced, and environmental programs that are funded by one or more of the government agencies. These laws are in place to protect the consumer, the manufacturers, and the environment. Are they the best right now? No, but at least they're a start. All politics is local, and individuals can work with each other to help influence better environmental policies. Environmental security is necessary for economic security and is at least as important as the national security. Making the transition is more sustainable societies will require that nations cooperate just as they do for national security purposes. Think about this. All of the wars that we have going on, they're for resources. If we run out of resources, what are we going to be fighting over? We're going to be fighting over, say, trying to save our planet rather than protecting it. And in chapter 24, make a transition to a more sustainable economies will require finding ways to estimate and include the harmful environment and health costs of producing goods and services in their market prices. That's something we don't include. You buy something at Walmart for $7.99. Well, the goods and the services are not included in that price. The harmful effect to the environment and health costs to us are not included in those prices. Making this economic transition to phasing out, creating subsidies, tax breaks, and replacing them with environmentally beneficial subsidies and tax breaks. Finally, other tools to use in transition are to tax pollution and waste instead of wages and profits, and to use most of the revenues from these taxes to promote environmental sustainability and reduce poverty. We're going to get into why reducing poverty will be important to environmental sustainability. Okay? All right, so that's it for chapter 23 and 24. I'll get better as these lectures goes on, I promise, and see you in class.